What is up and how's it going? Welcome back to another edition of the Noble Steady Sort of Sports Talk. We have another Dynasty Doctors episode. We're going to keep on breaking down divisions like we did last week. Last week we covered the East. This week we're covering the North for the NFC and the AFC. I'm your host, Tyler, here with the other Dynasty Doctors, Shane. Shane, how you doing today, buddy?
What's up, brother? We are officially back. We had a game, if you want to call it that, yesterday, but it's good to see. It's good to see it trending towards the new games, the regular season games.
Hey, man, Trey Lance season. Come on now, you got to buy that hype again, right? He's only 24, but I joke. He had a really good game, though. But Joey, how you doing today, buddy?
Yeah, the fact that he's younger than our quarterback is I was kind of stunned by that for a second. Then I realized, the Saints drafted an older quarterback. Other than that, I'm just happy that we're getting to football season. We're getting to more sports again. I'm excited for this NFL season. As a Saints fan, the closer we get to it, I feel better. You know, I saw a video yesterday. They previewed the Saints. They said their ceiling is 6 wins. But the guy said that if we get 7 and say Shuck starts, feel good. That's reason to be happy. So feeling better about football season this year.
I mean, that's just hopeful optimism. You know, they can't hurt you if they haven't played yet. So that's what we're waiting for.
That's true. Yeah.
I'm feeling better about the price decrease on Red Zone for me, being that now we're going to $30 ESPN a month app instead of the $95 a month for YouTube TV.
Hey, yeah, it's a wild time, man. I feel like
they
always changing year to year with the broadcasting packages with the NFL.
So have they announced how they're doing that? I haven't seen. I've seen that ESPN has it, but I haven't seen what they're doing.
So there's a new high performance, in quotes performance, but a new high-end ESPN app that's $30 a month that'll have access to NFL Network, ESPN, Red Zone, other things. And I guess the NFL is getting 10% of ESPN or something in the deal. If you read into the deal, it's pretty wild. It's a $2 billion deal. Our boy is still going to be running Red Zone.
Yes, he is.
That's the reason you buy that property is because Scott Hansen does a really good job.
If you guys want to have some fun, I'm all down to do it. You can get him to do a cameo, and we could have him mess with Corey or Jono or anybody. He does do cameos now, which is great for the draft. But so instead of YouTube TV, like for instance, I split with Matt, my buddy Matt. It's going to cost us $180 for the year. It was costing us, $450 for 6 months?
Yeah.
So it's a good deal. You know, you could just do it for the year and just be done with it. So
here it is. ABC, ESPN, and Disney signed a deal worth $2.7 million for the rights to broadcast NFL games from 2022 to 2033. YouTube and Google paid another $2 billion to the NFL for their broadcasting rights, while NFL Network paid $1.3 billion, Fox paid $2.2, CBS $2.1, and NBC laid down $2 billion for all the broadcasting rights. So you're right, Shane. It is $29.99 what they're saying, and that I don't see anything about them getting a piece of ESPN. I only see in the article I'm reading it anyway. But I do see it's a lot of money going back and forth. A lot of money. But interesting times, man. Interesting times, because I was going to talk to you about splitting a Sunday ticket this year, but if we're not, but that may be a much better, cheaper option for us.
Cheaper option, which means we have more money to put into against the spread.
You know what, Shane? That's the way I like to think about it. All right,
That's it.
That's the way we do it. That's the way we do it. But without that being said, I'm going to hand over the hosting duties to my main man, Joey. And Joey, take it away, buddy.
All right. So like last week, previewing the east of the AFC and NFC, today we are going north to a cooler climate. And we're going to start with the NFC. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't say that we start with the team that played on Thursday night, the Detroit Lions. Come so close, but was still so far from making it to the Super Bowl. They have a new offensive coordinator, a lot of new coaches for that fact. What do you guys think, fantasy wise, how that'll affect Detroit Lions pickups?
So I'm glad you brought up the Ben Johnson thing. I was going to get into it a little bit later about his departure. I think it's a big loss for Detroit, to be honest with you. There was just a lot of innovation and different ways he would utilize his players that I don't look. I don't know if you can just plug in another offense coordinator and be like, boom, here we go. Right? There's been some talks that they're going to try to stretch the field a little bit more, which is, for all you JMO truthers out there, that's great for you. Because finally unlock his potentials and maybe some different route trees and everything. But to me, the fantasy relevant players on this team are Gibbs, Amon-Ra, Laporta, Goff, Monty, and JMO, as I previously mentioned. I want to start off with Gibbs, okay, who's probably the belle of the ball, the gem of this offense from a fantasy perspective. The sky's the limit. The potential is there, but he always seems kind of capped with the presence of David Montgomery, which, don't get me wrong, Monty's a really good back and solid value in the 5th round. Like, if they were on different teams getting the full workload, both guys would probably end up either being, Gibbs an RB1, Monty hitting the door, maybe an RB2, but solidly there. It's just hard to at least for me, to justify a top 5 pick. We're top 5, 7-ish, Shane, you would say, for Gibbs?
I think top 5 is very fair. I think that's where he's going in almost every mock draft I've seen.
So it's just kind of hard to be like, because if you look at the numbers, right, he averages about 17 point-ish a game, 16 and some change with Dave Montgomery there. Now, when Dave Montgomery was gone, he was averaging over 26 points a game. So, look, I know I'm sounding snobbish and everything, but if I'm picking that high, I'm counting on that guy to give me consistently closer to 20 than 16, if that makes sense. Shane, how do you feel about Gibbs?
Yeah, like I think we talked about before. I feel like you're drafting him at his ceiling. So, like, to me, if I'm sitting there in a top 5, I'm not drafting a guy that his best games are going to be that, right? Like or hey, Montgomery's still focal part of the offense. He's under contract. He goes down to 17. When you have guys like Bijan, who's averaging 22 or 23, even I hate to say, because I don't like drafting him, but you can't overlook it at the lack of options San Francisco has right now. And if McCaffrey's healthy, he could easily finish higher than him. So to me, especially, we play a lot of PPR. I would probably be bypassing him in the top 5 just to go with one of the receivers. Just because I don't like drafting guys if they're rated at their ceiling.
No, and that makes complete sense. And that's the issue, right? You're paying the ceiling price, but you're not always going to get that ceiling production. So it gets a little dicey there. I would feel I feel more comfortable taking maybe 1 or 2 more wide receivers there and then taking him. Like, I have the 8th pick in our draft, right? If he somehow made it to 8th, if he wasn't the keeper, I'd feel very comfortable taking him there. But it's top 5. It just starts in some of the names you have to bypass. It gets a little dicey for me. But let me keep going down. Let me go to another first round, back into the first round kind of guy is Amon-Ra St. Brown. As we talked about off air, he's finished 3rd in PPR scoring the last 2 years. I just don't know if he gets the target share without Ben Johnson in this offense or the touchdowns to consistently go that high, right? Because eventually, like, all these guys are starting to develop. We talked about Gibbs. Laporta's developing more. I'm sure he's going to have a bigger role in the offense. JMO is developing more. And there's only so much of the ball that can go around. This is no slight to Amon-Ra at all. I think he's a fantastic player, perennial Pro Bowler, perennial All-Pro. It's just we're talking fantasy football right now. I think you consistently get a wide receiver 6 to 10 finish without a doubt. And I feel comfortable with that. I just don't know if he gives you the top 5 wide receiver upside anymore. And that's just because he's done it in different ways. Like, a few years ago, it was the catches and yardage. Last year, he had more touchdowns. So it's more along the lines of it's not sticky stats. And that's where I feel like there could be some regression coming down. Shane, what you think, bud?
Well, as a Dynasty Amon-Ra owner, I hope he still continues to perform. But I don't think you can just bypass what Ben Johnson meant to that offense. And they might struggle. I mean, sometimes they do great. But once again, I think you're going to draft him at his ceiling here. There's some other guys like, if we're sitting there, I have the 7th pick in my redraft league. If I'm sitting there, there's a Puka, there's a St. Brown, but then there's a Malik Neighbors who could easily be 1-2 receiver, depending on the quarterback play, depending on the new team. There's other guys that are out there, you could take the running back there. So just like a Genty, who could be a top 3 guy. It just depends on how you want to build your team. And I think that's why it's beneficial for people who listen to this to see, like, hey, when the thought process of building a roster, you have to take these things into consideration. Who's going to be there at 7 or 8? Do you feel comfortable swinging for the fence and then building a little bit safer later? Or do you want to build safe earlier and swing for the fence in the middle rounds? I think you have to have a good mix of that. So if you took St. Brown, say 7 or 8, like where me and Tyler are, I think then you swing for the fence on another pick.
Yeah.
But you need to have some form of boom with the consistency.
Exactly. And like you bring up Neighbors, we've talked about it off air. I mean, and I've said multiple times on the show, I'm making that pick once a day every week and twice on Sunday, because that's just where I feel like the floor and the ceiling are consistent on where I'm drafting at. But I do want to touch on Laporta. He falls in that weird range of, like, if you're not one of the big three tight ends, like, is tight end 4 through 10 that big of a difference, right? And at a ADP of round 6-ish, I don't know if I want to pay that price. He's great. He definitely started very slow last year. Came on towards the end. I think a lot of this comes back to, we don't know what this offense is going to look like not under Ben Johnson, right? And it's just a lot of question marks. And one last thing I want to say, too, that we didn't bring up for Gibbs, and this affects Monty as well. There were some offensive line losses here, like the center retiring, lost one in free agency. So we don't know if the offensive line is going to be top 5 like it's been the last few years. So something to keep in mind, something to think about. But I'm out on Laporta at the 6th round ADP. I'd rather take a shot on somebody a little bit later, keep acquiring more running backs, wide receivers. But it's not all negative. Shane, actually, before I get there, Shane, you go ahead, Laporta-wise, for you.
He's a fade for me in redraft, which is what, just to remind everybody, this is what we're focusing on, right? So it's not, even though we're the Dynasty doctors, we're diving into this year, and he's a fade for me. If I don't get one of the top 3, there's a bunch of guys. I'll be talking about one of them today that I love later, and I think the guys you'd have to draft when Laporta's going are just going to be so much more beneficial to your team, that I really am fading the Lions a lot this year. Not because I don't like them, I like to root for them, but unless it's their defense that I'm hoping for big things from, I'm just going to wait and see. So I'd rather see what they do this year, and then maybe that they might be on my radar for next year after their offensive coordinator gets settled.
Yeah, that's very fair. Well, I won't spend a lot more time talking on the Lions. I will say one sneaky kind of quarterback pickup would be Jared Goff. If the offense is just solid, if you're one of the people that's like, hey, I'm not taking quarterback early, I'm not reaching for one of the top guys, but I want people that can probably stopgap week to week or stream maybe, Jared Goff's a very good option in my opinion. Depending on the schedule. Their schedule is very dicey to start off with, though. I will say that. But just playing around the schedule, I do like him in some aspects. I got to talk about him because he is going to be he was fantasy relevant last year, and we all know my thoughts on him. But Jameson Williams, he is a spark plug in that offense. They keep talking about getting him the ball more, and he's consistently gone up in production. So just a name to throw out there. I don't like him at the ADP he's currently going at, but hey, it's I think it's round 6 as well, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm out on him, but best ball hero there, like I mentioned in our best ball episode. But he's an option if you're looking for high upside but a low floor as well. That's really all I have on the Lions. Shane, is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, so I think it. You look at what happened last year, but you have to focus on what's potentially going to happen this year. The Lions defense was decimated with injuries. right? So they had to score 35, 40 points a game to win because they were giving up 32 to 35 points a game. I think if they're going into the year healthy, you're going to see some of these games be closer to 24, 28, 21, 24, where they don't have to score all those points. So you're going to see, potentially some lower numbers based on how their defense is performing, right? So last year was great because the defense had injuries, and we don't want injuries to people. They're coming in strong. If their defense is strong this year, then they potentially will be a well balanced team. Which also plays into David Montgomery getting more touches than Gibbs. Gibbs was getting more touches because he was more explosive out the backfield catching. And when you're down, that's what you want. You want to dump the ball off to that guy if you can't get it down the field.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention that there are reports out of camp that Gibbs, and I'll take this with a giant grain of salt here, that Gibbs is taking snaps out wide with Montgomery in the backfield.
I mean, so you put all your best players on the field. I like it.
Yeah.
We'll get to this when we talk about the Rams, but the Rams took that Hunter kid, and he could play receiver. Rashad Smith could play receiver for the Chiefs. If you need people on the field that can be explosive and help you win the games, they don't necessarily have to play the position you drafted them. So it's not a bad idea.
But let's move on here.
Before we move on, I do have a question. As someone who is, and I know we're talking redraft, but as someone who had David Montgomery last year, is thinking about keeping him next year.
Keeper.
Would you say?
Okay.
Yeah, just for keeper questions. Would you say that kind of running back by committee that they have with Gibbs and Montgomery should that affect their, the person's want to keep a David Montgomery or a Jahmyr Gibbs?
Depends on where you can keep them. Where can you keep them?
I'd have to look, honestly. I want to say fifth round. No. Yeah, I think fifth round.
I got
you got it. I mean, David Montgomery for me last year did good till, like we said, till he didn't. But he was consistently one of my higher scoring players. So I guess that the main question is, like you said, that new offense, what is that going to do? Is it true that Jahmyr Gibbs is taking snaps out wide? Go for it.
You would have to keep him in the fourth.
No chance.
No, not a shot in hell.
And I'll touch on this for you, Joey, because my keepers are locked in for me in that league you're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm keeping Nico Collins and Ladd McConkey in the 7th, and then I'm keeping Chase Brown in the 15th.
You have 2 7th-round picks?
Yes.
Okay.
So, or if not, I'm going to keep one of them. I'll probably keep the older one in the 6th.
Okay.
But that's still – those guys are ranked in the 2nd, 3rd round. All 3 of them. I think in 12-man leagues, Nico can sneak into the 1st. I had Laporta in the 9th round or the 8th round, but those 3 guys are the best value and they're the better ranked. So I let Laporta go because I like a lot of late round tight ends. I think where you're going to be drafting, Montgomery might be the best guy on the board, but I would look for more value when you're doing a keeper. And a 4th round, that's not a good value for a keeper.
Yeah. I'm probably – I have Jaden Daniels. I'll probably keep him. He's like the number 1 guy I'm looking at keeping, and he's an early round pick, which will suck, which is kind of why I'm gunning for that pick, Tyler.
Yeah. No,
but, we'll see. But that's all I have for the Lions. Y'all have anything else after my question?
Nope.
All right. So we go from Detroit and we will go to Green Bay. Picking up Golden in the draft, I think, is only going to help the Green Bay Packers on the field. But fantasy-wise, they got Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft. Who is going to be that guy that emerges out of Green Bay to get you all those points you want come fantasy? I think Shane has it.
Yep, I got him. So let's just take a little look. So last year, Love had 3,389 yards, 25 TDs. I think he can easily improve on that. Jacobs, 1,329 rushing yards, 15 TDs. Solid number. Reed, 55 receptions, 857 yards, 6 TDs. Tucker Kraft, 50 receptions, 707, 7 receptions. So Tucker Kraft's the tight end I love this year. If you look at what he did last year, so I'm if I'm not getting one of the top 3 guys, I'm looking at drafting him. He's ranked 108. I'll take a guy that, I mean, I think Jordan Love can easily improve. I think there was a little rough year for the Packers offense, and they still stayed somewhat fantasy relevant. You know, I think they helped out. It wasn't like this great thing like we're going to see in some of the other teams we're going to talk about today. But where you drafted them, Jordan Love 106, Golden 126, Reed 100. I mean, so you can get a little combo with Love and Kraft. You could bet on that. You know, I think Reed's going to take a step forward this year. I think having Golden there is going to help him. I think you've had some very big inconsistencies with Dobbs and Watson and health issues. I mean, last year, you know, the best ball bros were banging and just beating their chest on Wicks. He did not look anything like they thought he would, which I think is why you see Golden. You know, one guy I was thinking of fading, which I've kind of reversed a little bit on. I'll get Tyler's opinion on this. Josh Jacobs, because they were really high on Marshawn Lloyd, and Marshawn Lloyd's body just, it's like he doesn't want him to play football. He keeps getting hurt, and they're so excited on him. So I mean, I could probably see this rise a little bit, but if you go receiver heavy in the first 2 picks and you're at the back end of the 3rd, 4th turn, and Jacobs is sitting there, I don't see how you don't jump on a guy who had 1,329 yards and 15 touchdowns last year. Tyler, what do you think?
No, I'm jumping on Jacobs completely at that price range, just because the simple fact is that he has no competition, like you said, and he put up legitimate RB1 numbers last year, like league winning RB1 number. Like, so you're telling me I can get a pretty much a hero RB like at 3-4 turn? I'm in.
Yeah,
stack my roster up in different spots for the one like 1st and 2nd round pick, maybe my 2 wide receivers, get studs there, hit Jacobs in the 3rd, and then go from there. Yeah, I'm okay with that. All day, every day. I completely agree with you on Tucker Kraft too. He's definitely one on my list. That's like, hey, if you're going to be targeting a tight end, that's not the big 3. That's one you really kind of look at. I do want to ask you though, how much do you think that injury that Jordan Love sustained in week 1 hampered him throughout the entire season and this offense in general?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't look as crisp to me last year. I think he fought through it. I think putting up 3,400 yards and 25 TDs is admirable, but I think where he's being drafted is more of his floor. I think he easily could have a season where he's 4,500 yards, 30 plus TDs. I think he's got the weapons. Jacobs can catch the ball at the back too if he needs to. So they just have options. I think they've got a good offensive coordinator. They've got a decent defense, might potentially give them a short field. And they're in a competitive division. I think as we go through, there's weapons all over this place. You're peppered with 1st, 2nd round picks, 3rd round picks in this whole division. They're going to be competitive games. I think they're going to have to score some points week in and week out.
Oh, for sure. I mean, look, and we're also talking about a team that finished 11-6. Like, they weren't dregs of the league. Like, they were competing there with the 5th seed in the NFC. Like, I like the Packers as a sneaky team this year. Me personally, I think that the injury really did hamper Jordan Love. And I want to touch on the fact that you think of how you mentioned Golden is going to do nothing but help out Jaden Reed, which as Jaden Reed, I know we talk about redraft, but dynasty-wise, I'd be very happy with. I think that you're going to see a dynamic kind of like we're going to see in Jacksonville, where Golden's going to take the top off the defense, and you're going to have Reed taking all the underneath stuff, which are both valuable roles, and that's going to open up the middle for Tucker Kraft as well. So it's going to be – there's a lot of weapons to stop on this offense, and I'm excited to see how the pecking order goes. There's less questions in my mind, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I think you noticed I didn't mention Dobbs or Watson. I don't think they're worth mentioning in
No.
redraft. To me, these are going to be guys that maybe you try to get off the waiver wire if there's an injury. I guess my question to you is, in a redraft league, are you basically have to draft Reed or Golden in close to the same area? You know, you could take Love and then go for Golden. I mean, is there a combo you're trying to do, or is there one player you would particularly like to draft?
Well, I guess it just depends on how you want to play it, right? If you're a gambling man, I say you take Golden and Love and see what you got, right? The ceiling's a little bit higher for me on Golden than it is on Reed. The safer play is Reed. I'd personally lean Reed a little bit more. I've seen him do it. I've also seen this offense manufacture touches for him, not only in the passing game, but in the running game as well. So it's a little scary considering that he's had less than, what he had, like 65% of the snap share last year or something like that. So it is very scary when you talk about that, but he usually does make the most out of his touches. But if you look at the numbers, he is so much better when Jordan Love is his quarterback than anybody else. So I'm banking on the health of Jordan Love this year to really unlock Jaden Reed.
Yeah, depending on the build, Golden in the 12th or the 11th, where if he has a season like Brian Thomas Jr., not saying he is, but Brian Thomas Jr. came in and blew the top off for that offense. With a pretty bad play. I think, when we get into Jacksonville, I think I'm pretty high. I think you are as well on that offensive coordinator coming in and making that team even better. I think that it's going to be interesting. Like I said, Green Bay's a sneaky team. They won 11 games last year, probably not playing their best football, and I just think they're going to play better. So,
well, a different brand of football, I think, is a way to look at it too. Like they were playing running the ball, smash mouth, where I feel like if they can open it up a little bit more with a fully healthy Jordan Love, they can really just be a problem for people, right? But I like them this year. I honestly think they're probably going to finish second if I had to pick in this division. I mean, if not first, I could totally see it happening as well. But there's just this division's just so good, so good.
Yeah, when we're looking at divisions, I have to look at some of the other ones as we go through. But this one, it seemed to be the most balanced. Where I'm like, man, if I'm trying to put a little division bet together, I don't know who I'm taking in this division right now. It's tough. It's a full horse race right now to me to see how these teams come out and play.
To talk betting wise, I think the most value bang for your bucks, I want to say they're like plus 200 to 300. Joe, if you could fact check me on that one, on Green Bay's odds to win. I feel like that's the better value here. To win a division, yeah. You can look that up for me real quick. I want to say they're plus 200 to 300, somewhere in that range. But also, just kind of circle back on Detroit, speaking of betting and stuff like that, they have their win total at 10 this year, which to me seems a little low for a team that won 15 games last year.
Yeah, I'm
just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to regress that much, but yeah, that could be something interesting to bet on. Yeah,
for sure. But
according to ESPN Bet, because that's the website I had up.
Yeah.
Where did it go? The Green Bay Packers are plus 250.
Yeah. The
Detroit Lions are plus 145. The Vikings are plus 350, and the Bears are plus 450. So,
damn, those are pretty good odds for everybody, to be honest.
Yeah.
Usually after like the first two, you start seeing some like 800,000s to one. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think that's really. I mean, so kind of cover it. We're both in love with Tucker Kraft. We like the weapons. Josh Jacobs at his current ADP. We're all over it, and we're hoping for a Jordan Love bounce back. That pretty much covered the Packers there.
That's a solid recap. That is correct, sir.
All right. Well, Broseph, who we got up next, big dog?
I will say, you bring up Jordan Love's injury that happened playing in Brazil on a soccer field.
Yes.
When we go to the AFC West,
dude.
Hold on. You say this dude, but I'm telling you, the reason you remember that game last year, they were slipping everywhere, sliding. It's not meant for football. Like that's not a field meant for football. It's meant for people who are light on their feet.
Just can't get through one podcast without bringing it back to soccer somehow.
Excuse me, I'm not the NFL playing at freaking Brazil soccer stadiums. When we get to the AFC, so back to what I was saying, when we get to the AFC West, that's going to be a problem week one for two teams that we will cover then.
Yeah.
But right now, we're going to go to Minnesota and talk about the Vikings, who are going to be starting essentially a rookie quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. How is that going to change your idea of maybe picking up a Jordan Addison, a T.J. Hawkinson? You're going to pick up Justin Jefferson because you know you're going to get the numbers out of him. But how does that affect everyone else on the team, J.J. McCarthy starting?
So I'm going to bring up some other names on, and it's more along the lines of I believe more in Kevin O'Connell than anything. He has made Nick Mullins a fantasy relevant quarterback. He's made Josh Dobbs a fantasy relevant quarterback. The 2 years he had Kirk Cousins was the 7th and 4th overall quarterback in fantasy that year. The dude just knows how to coach quarterbacks. And you look at Sam Darnold last year. He took the Island of Misfit Toys, broken Sam Darnold, and made him, I mean, crap for a little bit, an MVP candidate.
And got him paid.
Very paid. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, look, I like JJ coming out, but now when you compare him with Kevin O'Connell, I don't see why not. I mean, look, I like him better than Nick Mullins and Josh Dobbs. So for me, it should be it's not going to be the same, but there should be no hiccups into the production for the guys you're wondering about, like Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson. And since you brought him up, Joey, like let's talk about JJ. Like, he had a really good year last year. It didn't feel like the dominance that we normally get from him. But, I mean, I was looking at the numbers. I'm like, holy crap. It actually is, like, not that bad. He had 103 receptions, 1,500 yards, which was second in the league last year, and 10 touchdowns. What more? I mean, you can ask for more, but that's a hell of a season right there. I mean, Shane, as a Justin Jefferson Dynasty owner, how did you feel about his year last year? Like I said, didn't feel like we had any dominance. But, man, you look at it, he's
consistent.
Right?
I think we talked about this. I had Bijan in a redraft league, and I'm like sitting there, I was like kind of aggravated. Now look, I'm like, well, dude, he just didn't have the boom games. He was consistent, 23 to 25 points a game, which is, I mean, you can't be mad at that. It's just as you saw some of these other players getting these 40, 45-point weeks. I guess I'll ask you, you nervous going into the season for redraft purposes? Justin Jefferson already tweaked his hamstring. Is there any concern there?
Oh, yeah. Look, you don't love to hear that. Of course, especially soft tissue injuries like this. He's had issues in the past. What did he miss? 4 games with it 2 years ago in 23. So you don't love to hear it. I'm trying to take injuries out of it. Now, if it comes out that this lingers on to your draft and you're in like week 3, week 4 of the preseason, okay, maybe you take it a notch down a little bit and you don't take him at 4 or anything like that. You know what I mean? Maybe you kind of insulate yourself there. But if it comes out he's fine and he's good to go, he's back practicing, I don't care. All good to go. As long as it's not a lingering thing, I'm good to go. Now, one guy I want to talk about is his running mate, Jordan Addison, who may be facing a 4-game suspension-ish is what's being floated out there. He did plead guilty to a DUI arrest that he had a few years ago. That's finally finished the legal system, so the NFL now is going to step in. But I do want to say he finished with a very respectable 63 receptions, 875 yards, and 9 touchdowns last year. That's solid. That's solid wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 2 area there. So you can't complain there, and I love his game, and I can only see it going up from here. So as long as he can stay healthy, I think him and Jordan, I mean, you got to talk about him and Justin Jefferson being like maybe one of the top pairs in the NFL. If not, you got to put him in that discussion. Shane, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think he was smart when he saw what Rice was going to get. The next day he pleads out. Supposedly it's 3 to 4 games.
Yeah.
I love him long term for Dynasty. Redraft. I don't know. I don't know what to do with him because he's still. It's not like he's fallen because of his suspension as of now. He's still going pretty high, and I don't know. I didn't look at him where his ranking is today, but
77.
I mean, at 77, I'm not taking him.
Yeah, no, and that's very fair.
Yeah, there's just I know the guys that are around 77. I wouldn't take him. If he falls in your leagues and you're sitting there in the 100 range to 120 range, and it's like, okay, well,
ooh, man.
I mean, some of these guys you draft with, they see the suspension, they don't take him. So depending on how your league mates are, if he falls and you have a build where maybe you're a little weak at receiver, you're stronger at other, get him and stash him. But as far as me in the 70 range, there's no chance of me ever drafting him.
I think I would feel comfortable in the 80s. You know, bet on the high the upside and everything. But I get what you're saying. It definitely is a risk taking somebody that is probably going to face suspension, isn't the number one guy, but the talent's there. And as long as I just believe that, I believe in the offense more than anything, the coaching staff, that's where I'm at with it. But one last guy, real quick, I'll talk about the backfield. They did trade for Jordan Mason this offseason, which I think is a sneaky pickup. And I think they may be going to a Detroit kind of model where Mason will be the hammer because he hasn't ever really caught a lot of passes. And then you have Jones as the Gibbs role, I guess you could say, which Jones had a fantastic year last year. He was nicked up a little bit like that. Ty Chandler unfortunately couldn't step up and take that role as the 1-2 back. But like I said, I love the Trey Mason pickup. I think that's the running back you target later on in drafts because the ADP for Aaron Jones around RB 26-ish. I don't hate it, but it's a little too rich for my blood for a guy who is older, has had injury history, and is a little more pricey. Sam, what you think?
Yeah, I think they're I've seen a lot of people. I like Mason. Drafted him like he's going to be the starter, and I think they're very bullish on him. I think, like you said, I think it's going to be more of a split. He doesn't catch a lot of passes, but in that offense where you can have Justin Jefferson go up and maybe get a pass interference and get him to the 1-yard line, he's going to get that goal line. I don't see them doing a lot of QB sneaks, so he could get some goal line action. And I think they're going to, the best thing for a young quarterback is a solid running game. They got 2 solid running backs. So in a 0 RB or a hero RB, he's a great target. I got a lot of them in best ball. So I'm high on him for sure this year. He looked good. I can't believe San Francisco let him go, especially with the
That's because CMC's coming back for an RB1 season, bro.
Okay.
Look, he's either hurt or he finishes a top 2 RB. Okay.
Yep. I mean, the guys on fantasy, the Fantasy Pro guys, one of them, I forgot which one it is he just thinks he's taking him first overall. He thinks he's the best thing this year. He's bullish. So I just don't want to hear anybody crying when he breaks their heart again. So,
and that's why you insulate yourself with rookies and Dynasty.
That's true.
But one last guy I want to touch on is TJ Hawkinson. It was a weird year last year. He's coming back from the torn ACL. He tore late in 2023. I mean, still finished with about 400 yards, 41 receptions. I don't know, man. I think his ADP last time I saw was 6th round-ish. I'm willing to wait on tight end and pick one up later. It's just my personal opinion. Yeah, you're looking at about 66 overall is what Fantasy Pros is saying his ADP is right now. Too rich for my blood. Think he's a good player. Just would rather focus on other positions. Now, if he falls, I'll take him. But I do want to put up one thing. The offensive line is improved this year. What Minnesota's kind of like bugaboo, or I guess their flaw in offense last year was the interior of their offensive line. They signed Ryan Kelly from the Indianapolis Colts to play center, which is a huge upgrade for him. And they also drafted a guard, Jackson, in the first round this year. So that offensive line should be better, which should help JJ with that transition and give him the time he needs to get the ball to the playmaker. So in Kevin O'Connell, we trust. I say if you can, Justin Jefferson, as long as his hamstring's healthy. Jordan Addison, I like him in the 80s range. And then TJ Hawkinson, I'd kind of like more in the 80 range than I would the 66 where he's going. Shane, any last thoughts on Minnesota before we move on?
No, I agree with all that. I'm 100% with you in all takes.
All right, Bruce, have you got anything? You got any follow-ups for us?
No, not really. I'm interested to see what JJ McCarthy can do with a full camp, like you said, with Kevin O'Connell at the helm.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger question going into my next team and the last team of the NFC North, the Chicago Bears, with a brand new head coach, Caleb Williams. Right. Caleb Williams' second year. They also, picked up Colston Loveland, 10th overall. They have DeAndre Swift and DJ Moore still around. And they did add some offensive line help with Joe Thuney, an all-pro. So, Shane, you're wearing the Cubs hat, so we'll go to you with the Chicago take. What will this Ben Johnson offense look like in Chicago for fantasy players?
I'm buying about as much of this offense as I can. And I Caleb Williams, where he's being ranked at 94, I like him. Last year, 3,541 yards throwing, 20 TDs, 489 yards rushing. I think he's going to be the first Chicago quarterback to go over 4,000 yards. If he threw 3,541, look, he had a rough start to his career. I think they brought in a coach that's going to maximize his talent, like you saw with Jared Goff. I think he's a lot more physical and a lot better talent than Jared Goff. So, some numbers to look at, and me and Tyler were talking about this. I mean, you had DJ Moore catch 98 receptions, 966 yards, and 6 TDs. Keenan Allen, 70 receptions, 744 yards, 7 TDs. Adunze, 54 receptions, 734 yards, 3 TDs. Now, that 70 receptions are up for grabs with Allen being gone. But let's look at the targets that those guys had based on their receptions. DJ Moore had 140 targets. He only caught 98 of them. Keenan Allen, 121. He only caught 70. Adunze, 101, and he only caught 54. If he just increases those misses by 20%, I mean, these guys are going to be scoring points and winning people championships. I think they went younger. They got rid of Allen. You got a guy like Loveland. He's ranked 137 right now. I'm buying that all day if I'm punting tight end. You could grab Luther Burden late if you're trying to. If you think I'm not really overly bullish on him, just in redraft, maybe more of a best ball guy. But Adunze, 77, Moore, 39, even DeAndre Swift. He had 959 yards last year, 6 TDs, 42 receptions for 386 yards. I mean, if you've seen what Ben Johnson can do with running backs, I think that's going to increase. So, it's a lot of information all at once, but just to say, these are guys that I'm buying in their spots for the most part. That I'm going to consider them where they're being drafted, or potentially for Adunze and especially Loveland, maybe a little more, depending on how to run it. I'm in a lot of 6 points for touchdowns for quarterbacks. Williams might move up the board a little bit for me, but I believe in what Ben Johnson's doing. And if you look at camp, he's being the disciplinarian. If they're not doing it right, he's pulling them. He kicked Williams off and put another quarterback in. If you're not going to do it right, then you could watch someone do it right. So I like what he's bringing to the table. Tyler, we'll start with Williams. What are your thoughts? Do you think that he could be fantasy relevant? Not him as a person, fantasy.
Oh no.
relevant.
We'll save that disdain for a future quarterback we're going to talk about in next division.
Yes.
I think Williams, I like the upside play if I can get him around the 10th round.
Yep.
The potential's there, and you got to keep buying it. I think this is a big year for him, though. Like, he has to do something with the weapons he has. Like, they improved the offensive line tremendously. They got him more weapons and everything. So the ball's in his court, and honestly, he just needs to get rid of the freaking ball. Just trust what the offense is doing and get rid of it. The talent's there. I would buy him in the 10th round for sure. I think he has the potential to finish as maybe like QB6 is where I see the ceiling at. But the floor is very low. It was not good last year. It was not great. But I think that's more circumstance than anything. But I did want to ask you a question. Does your mind change at all if Luther Burden gets all the slot snaps? Does that change your view of how you view DJ Moore? Because as a DJ Moore owner, I'm kind of hoping that he takes the slot snaps and becomes the Amon-Ra in this offense. Because I think Adunze is more of an outside receiver.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like Adunze as the deep threat. I would assume more, especially I don't see Burden doing that. He was late to camp. I think he's a little dinged up. So where I think he may be long term, I think you got to go with your best players. Right now, DJ Moore's there, I think is going to play that Amon-Ra role.
Now I will say for people that have never had DJ Moore, it is very frustrating.
Ooh,
he may finish as a wide receiver 2, but there's going to be some weeks where he's going to score as the 50th wide receiver, and then other weeks he'll score as the 6th wide receiver. You just got to make sure he's in your lineup. So it is very frustrating. I will say that I'm all in on Dunze this year. I think putting him as that X receiver on the outside, and you get him in the 7th round, I'm all for it. That's the guy I'm targeting from this offense. And I am going to push back a little bit on DeAndre Swift, and here's why. I love the offensive line, love the play caller and everything like that. Let's remember, DeAndre Swift was with Ben Johnson for 2 years in Detroit, and he always found another way to use another running back or never use him fully. I think there's just not a dislike. It's just he doesn't fit the mold that Ben Johnson wants in his running back. So I wouldn't be surprised if a Roschon Johnson gets a little more run than people expect. I'm going to butcher this guy's name. Monogane they drafted.
Yeah.
The other running back. Was it? Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah. I feel good about that then. All right. I wasn't even looking at it. That's the thing. I was just trying to remember it off the top of my head. But yeah, don't be surprised if those guys get a little more run. That's just where I'm feeling. But I love the Loveland pick as long as his shoulder checks out and everything's good there. But Roman, Loveland are going to be my 2 targets out of that offense.
Yeah, I think the only thing we talk about, I don't necessarily love Swift, but at spot 60 in the 6th round, depending on how your build is, I think you could take a swing for him. Like you said, I love Adunze, Loveland, Williams. I also, too, am part of the Been Hurt by DJ Moore fan club, so he's not been written off.
I am too.
At 39, there's probably going to be some other people that I'm gonna in redraft take over him. But I think these guys are going to have a solid defense still. I think that's underrated, and potentially could give them some short fields. But once again, like we talked about earlier, I'm not going to beat it to death. This is a very competitive division, so I think you're going to have to continue to compete. And Williams is still going to make mistakes. I don't think he's going to fix the interceptions or holding on to the ball long. You're still going to see some of that. So I think they're going to have to come back in some games still.
We love that for fantasy. Joe, anything you want to add for the Bears before we move on to the AFC?
I am also a part of the DJ Moore Hurt Me Club, so he will be dropped.
Where did DJ Moore hurt you? Anyway,
he hurt me in my wallet. That's for sure.
Oh man, the worst place.
Yes, the worst place.
So overall, NFC North, what would we say? I would hopefully say that it's in a better. Yeah, let's do that. If you had to pick someone right now to win the NFC North,
I'll go first. I'm picking the Packers. I think I've said that before and earlier in the episode. I think the Packers are a sneaky team in this division this year.
That's who I was going to say. They have great coaching, just like Minnesota. I think there's great coaching all around in this division, but I'd have to see the Lions, their defense be healthy and their offense still perform. So right now, for me, if I'm betting today, I'm with Tyler. I take the Packers.
Yeah, I would do the same. I'd say Packers. But I will say I think Lions will make it as a wild card team.
Oh,
that way, I'm not taking away like what they did last year with what they had was phenomenal. Be able to make it to the playoffs with a banged up defense like they did. But show me that healthy defense and show me that, continuity of coaching that you lost from last year continues.
That's very fair. Teams usually struggle when they lose their offensive and defensive coordinators in the offseason. So, but
yes.
Let's get to it. Let's go to the AFC. Joey, who are we starting off with first?
Oh boy, we're going to start with a franchise that we don't know who's starting at quarterback. There's a favorite through camp, I guess. But everything to me about this franchise says that it is a dumpster fire of a franchise. They unveiled a helmet and had a dude purposefully fall into the lake when they unveiled it. That's the Cleveland Browns.
Who?
So I don't know who has this team.
I did.
All right.
Exactly. I took the other terrible team in this division for Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, so literally the first note I have for the Browns is, oh boy, where do I start? Joey's already said it. There's 4 quarterbacks. You've all heard it ad nauseum. Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders. I personally think Shedeur Sanders is the odd man out. Like, I get it. I get he's a rookie and everything like that. But people, you got to realize he's a 5th-round pick. He may end up on the practice squad, but the writing, like, everybody's like, oh, well, they don't have quarterbacks, so it's a great place for them to go, blah, 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 blah. The Cleveland Browns told you what they thought about Shedeur Sanders when they took Dylan Gabriel in front of him. So, to me, that's not even on a blip of my radar that he's going to be the quarterback. I truly believe it's Joe Flacco. He should win the job. And God, we can only hope so, because that is the only way the 2 people on this team that I would even consider fantasy relevant. Well, there's 3, depending on how the injuries or how certain things work out. But so the only 2 people I'm really even considering is Jerry Jeudy and Njoku, because A, there's no one else, and B, Jerry Jeudy, for Steve Smith calling him a jag and just another guy, he had a heck of a season to close out the year last year. Now, granted, that was it with Jameis Winston and some other guys. So wasn't with this team, with these quarterbacks. But if he can keep doing that, his ADP is 70 right now. I have no problem taking him in the 7th round, as long as Joe Flacco is the quarterback, and Njoku is another guy that I would be targeting if you're not want to take one of the big 3. But let's talk about the real story here, other than the quarterbacks, is what the heck's going to happen with Quinshon Judkins? For a guy we were all excited about being drafted high in the 2nd round, I think like the 3rd running back taken at that point, to just getting arrested before he signs his contract. And for a domestic violence allegation, and it's not good if you read the reports, we're not going to go over them here, but he's facing at least a 6-game suspension once he signs his deal. So to me, that would make Jerome Ford viable as well. But other than that, those 3, I'm not touching the Cleveland Browns. What's your thoughts, Sam?
Well, if you watch Dylan Sampson put on his pads and get just completely destroyed at practice, Jerome Ford's looking really good. So
yeah,
I would expect, and I've heard some rumors, which couldn't happen to a better guy. I'm not a big fan of his. Kenny Pickett potentially could get traded again. He just keep moving him around the league because he sucks. I think if you've drafted Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, you let them learn from Joe Flacco, who's a professional. He's won a Super Bowl. He's competed at a high level. He's still playing fairly well for his age. But I mean, this team is close to being a dumpster fire as it is.
Yeah. I mean, there's so what's your thoughts on the Judkins thing? Like,
so this is my problem. If he was signed, I'd feel better. He's not signed. They don't owe him anything. I don't know how that works if they get any kind of comp pick because of that situation. But
no,
they've had too many issues off the field in the past. I don't think you bring in another guy that's starting his career with that big of an issue. I just think you move on from him. I think you can go get some other people, or you can just make work what you have. But to me, I think you move on from him. If it was a different team, but like you've had so many issues with like off the field stuff with people, and I wouldn't want to bring that guy in. So I would move on from him.
My question is before you go, Tyler, he was a 2nd-round pick. What kind of compensation would you get for that? If I'm a fan of the Browns, which I'd be drinking heavily if I was, you haven't signed him, he gets arrested, and then you just decide, bye.
I'm not saying that's the right choice, but he's not bringing anything to your team currently. He chose to go, instead of focus on football, he chose to be kind of a piece of shit. So, it depends on if if you want to bring a player like that into your locker room and you think you could change it around, then he still gets a 6-game suspension. He might be worth stashing after seeing what Dylan Sampson looked like at practice right out the gate. But I mean, to be honest with you, this team is projected to be one of the bottom 3 teams. You're not buying a lot of, from a redraft fantasy standpoint, you're not buying a lot of this offense.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah.
It's just it would be a big fade for me.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So that there's not a lot I can say about the Cleveland Browns, but that's pretty much all I can say. I did want to point out that there was one how do I put this? Like one kind of parallel, I would say. Everybody remember Darius Geis from LSU? Kind of same thing, second round pick. He wasn't as highly picked and played a little bit before all the charges happened, but just some parallels there. They don't receive any compensation for him though. But
well, the thing was he played and then he got injured and then all that stuff came out.
Yeah,
Darius Geis.
That's true.
You know, this guy hasn't even.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, he hasn't even signed his contract yet. So,
like most years, the Browns live up to their name. So,
yeah.
No, so let's talk about a relevant team real quick, and then we can feel better about ourselves.
You say a relevant team. They're relevant because they're in the news. I would say. I wouldn't say that they're relevant because they're going to be great.
Look, they made the playoffs.
They did. This is going to be the test. I think this is going to be the true test for Mike Tomlin coming in. He's got a lot of talent at wide receiver with DK Metcalf coming in. I'm saying DK Metcalf brings in a lot of talent to that roster.
I thought you were talking about the room. I was like,
no. One person is bringing in a lot of talent is what I'm saying.
Okay.
He's got Jonnu Smith coming in to team up with Pat Freiermuth, and everybody's favorite quarterback is back, Aaron Rodgers. So, Shane,
all right.
Black and Yellow faithful, how should they feel fantasy-wise about their players?
Fantasy-wise, so this might surprise you. I'm going to try to take a slightly positive take on, okay?
Oh, boy.
Okay, so Russell Wilson threw for 2,482 yards, 16 touchdowns. They had some other quarterbacks play. Harris, 1,042 yards, rushing six touchdowns. He had 36 receptions, 310 yards. Warren, 511 rushing, 38 receptions, 283 yards, right? So those aren't things that like jump off the page there. I think when we looked at last week, even though many people probably don't like him as a person because he's not likable, Aaron Rodgers still threw the ball for way more yards than that, way more touchdowns than that. I think he's got a young running back that fits the scheme that I love. I think Jaylen Warren will still be serviceable to the numbers that you see. And if I'm a DK owner or if I've gone running back heavy, I probably would smash DK because Rodgers is going to get the ball to a receiver, right? So when I'm looking at just this from a fantasy standpoint, if Rodgers can play better than Russell Wilson, I think DK can have a really good year. I think Caleb Johnson is going to be a smash. He's going at 85. I'm targeting him nonstop based on the way that team plays. Other than DK and Caleb Johnson, though, I probably am not touching most. I'm not a guy that drafts my backup running back for my guys in redraft. So I would focus more on Johnson. Pat Freiermuth dropped all the way to 180 in Arthur Smith's system. Jonathan Smith jumped to 135. I'm just not with the other tight ends we've talked about, late tight end. They're not on my radar. What I would tell you is a sneaky guy. There's two sneaky plays here. I don't know who it's going to be. I wish I could, but Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson. There is going to be a viable second receiver on this team who can score week-to-week points. That if you see it kind of go play out in preseason, he's going to click with somebody. So
Yeah.
while I think he's a giant piece of garbage, he still can play quarterback better than Russell Wilson did for the Steelers, and I think he can at least make DK fantasy relevant. And DK's going at 43. I think we talked about it last week. His receiver had similar stats to his number one receiver had similar stats to CeeDee Lamb last year and is going in the 20s. And I think Caleb Johnson's going to be a machine in that offense. So Tyler, who is the founding member of the Aaron Rodgers fan club, what do you think about the slightly positive take? Is it surprising to you, or are you expecting me to just destroy these guys?
No, not at all. I think the points you brought up are very valid and completely true. Look, you take the personal crap out from Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, he's a giant douche, and he's to the point where he's the type of guy that like has been arrogant and everything like that, and is now just leaning into it. And it's like, oh well, it's y'all's fault. Y'all got aggravated by my wordplay and anything like that. But strictly on the field, he did do a lot better towards the end of last year with the Jets. I'll give him that. They gave him Devontae Adams. His numbers went up. He kind of sort of looked like the old Aaron Rodgers. Now, does it happen with DK Metcalf? I don't know. I really don't know. And like you pointed out, there is no second wide receiver on the team. I mean, you got like Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson out pretty much all last year with an ankle injury, I believe. And Calvin Austin, he's a smaller wide receiver, kind of more of a slot, deep threat kind of guy. I would say you're probably going to get a mixture of both of them. But I think in their mind that their top two targets are going to be DK Metcalf and Jonnu Smith. I think that's what their thinking is right now. Arthur Smith loves Jonnu Smith, even though he doesn't use him like a tight end one kind of thing, right? But he'll just put him in over people that are fantasy relevant. The only person I'm really like, no, don't get me wrong. I love DK in this system just because somebody's got to get the ball. But Caleb Johnson, like you mentioned, that's an easy smash for me. If he's there in the 8th round for me, you said the 80s, right? ADPs, what is that?
He's currently in my rankings that I use 85.
So you're talking about in a 10-team league midway through the 8th round. Yeah, I would consider taking him in the 5th round.
Yeah,
that's where I'm thinking he's going to probably end up at fall at some point. So to me, that's a no-brainer. You take him there because I'm sorry, if they believe that Warren was going to be an every down back or could handle the workload, they wouldn't have drafted Caleb Johnson. Yes, I know he was a 3rd-round pick, but technically he was their 2nd pick. So that means they valued him highly. And like you said, and I can agree more in the zone scheme where he can just read the line, ride the line, and then 1 foot go. Completely agree. I don't think 1,000 yards and at least 8 touchdowns is out of the realm of possibility for Caleb Johnson this year.
No, I agree. Joey, any questions on the Steelers? I really don't want to talk positively about Aaron Rodgers anymore.
I was just going to talk about the fact that Aaron Rodgers is QB 28 according to Fantasy Pros.
I don't disagree there, though.
He is 190. He's ranked 190 overall. So besides spending the 43rd overall pick on DK Metcalf, you potentially can get most of this team late. So I wouldn't draft him besides Johnson. And to be honest with you, depending on the build, it would have to depend on what, like me and Tyler were talking before the show. If I went heavy running back, robust running back, then I'd probably be more inclined to take DK 43.
But if you're taking DK there, though, you're not feeling terrible about being like, okay, I punted on wide receiver till round 4. I'm not feeling terrible about it, right? Like, it's not ending up with just using him, not bashing him. But if you would end up with Jordan Addison as your wide receiver 1, you'd feel fucking terrible about it.
Yeah. Look, we talked about the terrible team in this division. We're about to talk about 2 amazing teams, especially offensively.
Yes.
They're going to have to score points. You know, I know they've got great coaching in Tomlin. He's got his work cut out for him. Usually he gets rid of the problems and then they show themselves. He is getting one coming in. He knows he's a problem. So it'll be interesting to watch, but I mean, they're going to have to score some points.
You took my point, Shane. I was going to say, typically Tomlin gets the problems out. He doesn't have the problems coming in. But I think if I remember,
he should be in the Hall of Fame just for the fact that he has dealt with Le'Veon Bell, Deontay Johnson, Antonio Brown. He's had all these head cases. He kept them under wraps until they left.
Martavis Bryant.
So if he takes the Steelers to a winning record this year with the Aaron Rodgers circus, he could be top 3 candidate for Coach of the Year, in my opinion.
I'm gonna tell you now, though. But okay, let me play the inverse of this, though. With all the national hype and pretty much the all-in moves that they've made, if they don't make the playoffs this year, is he on the hot seat?
I don't think so, solely because I want to say Aaron Rodgers has said this is going to be his last season. Am I wrong?
But here's the thing, though, Joey. The organization has committed a lot to making a run this year.
If it was any other organization besides the Steelers, I'd say he's on the hot seat. That is a loyal organization. He could be, but I wouldn't feel as firm saying it if it was any other organization.
That's fair. Very fair.
I'm looking something up really quick because.
Well, while you look that up, I'm gonna just
yeah,
it's just a lot of Go ahead.
They've had 3 head coaches since 1969. Only 3.
Yeah, Noel Cowher,
Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin. And
yeah,
they've had some pretty bad seasons in that run. I think the only reason that if this is Aaron Rodgers, if this truly is his last season and they don't have a winning record, you go out there, you draft a quarterback, and then maybe he's on the hot seat.
Well, their plan is to get roll Will Howard, I think. So we'll see how this year rolls with him.
Yeah.
I mean, Will Howard's the backup. So
I think if you have Aaron Rodgers in for 1 year, you see how it goes. You kick the tires. If you're competing for a run, great. If you're not, then it's just like, hey, we're giving him his last hurrah. Let's make sure everything around him is working, and then go on.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the 2 fireworks here. Okay. Teams.
All right. So we're gonna go to the land of crab cakes and football. That is Baltimore.
You forgot crime.
I try to leave that out because
okay.
New Orleans isn't that
and
much
the wire
far
guys.
back. Yeah, the wire.
And the wire.
King Henry coming back for another year. They also have Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. The question really is with those 2, is Isaiah Likely going to start getting more snaps than Mark Andrews?
Joe, I'm going to ask you to stop taking my points that I have written as my bullet points, please. So
I try not to.
It's all good, buddy. It's all good.
I'm secretly reading your notes. You just don't know it yet.
I mean, I don't know. You picked out 3 out of the fucking 4 the 5 that I had, but no, like if you don't mind, I'm gonna take it over from here. So look, I don't care what his ADP is. I feel like Lamar Jackson is one of the only quarterbacks. I'm gonna say the only quarterback, honestly, because even Hurts and Allen, I feel like don't. If he keeps passing for 40 yards and 40 touchdowns and running like he is, I'm taking him in the second round all day, every day, and feeling okay about it. If you're that type of person that's okay with doing that, because you're essentially getting 2 positions in one, right? And it's honestly a cheat code in my opinion. But the fact that he threw for 40 touchdowns last year, let that sink in. 40 touchdowns with that rushing production of passing. That's not even talking about the rushing stuff. That is insane kind of production you receive from the quarterback position. And I think, what do you think, Shane? He's like really the only viable one you could say deserves that kind of draft capital.
What's crazy to me is he's still ranked second to Allen, and I don't have it in front of me, but I think when we were talking last week, this is why like I was fading Jaden Daniels in redraft, because you really are picking him over like where you're going to draft in most spots. You're going to have to pick him over Allen or Lamar Jackson, which is not what a lot of people will do.
Yeah.
So to me, Lamar is in play for my 3rd pick. If he falls, I don't know if he will. The guy in front of me won a championship last year with Lamar and Derrick Henry. The guy, I have to pull this team for next time we talk, but my guy Mike always picks high scoring teams and he always falters at the end. Last year, he just truly dominated the league with the team he drafted. He was scoring 150, 170 points a week in a 10-man PPR league. So to me, I am smashing Lamar Jackson in the 3rd round. I'm not a high quarterback taker usually, but he is, like Tyler said, a cheat code.
Since you brought him up, I'm going to bring up King Henry here, okay? And so, as Joey so eloquently calls him, just the fact that he's still doing this on the north side of 30, 325 attempts, 1,921 yards. He damn near averaged 6 yards a carry with 16 touchdowns.
It's
Look,
impressive.
I don't know about y'all. I'm willing to take that bet. You know, like, yeah, I may be left holding the bag, but at a certain point, I think people can't blame me at a certain point for taking him, right? Like, I think second, third round is the ideal spot for Derrick Henry. He just does it year after year. The line it's the best team in football. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that easy. So to me, Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson are easy smashes at their ADP. But let's get with okay, yeah. So you're looking about consensus according to Fantasy Pros. Maybe a little rich for me at the back end of the first is where a lot of people have him, but I won't fault people for taking him. The production's there, and there's no reason he shouldn't repeat that this year. You like to see him catch a little more passes, but at this point, you get 1,900 yards. Stop complaining. Joey, let's talk about the tight ends, okay? Because I'm with you. I don't know who the heck is going to step up and actually be the tight end one this year. Because I'm not touching Mark Andrews. I feel like Mark Andrews is off the board for me, right? At least for right now. Because last year he really feasted on touchdown production, and that's not a sticky stat and can always fade the other way for you. So Mark Andrews to me is not the one I'd be targeting. Likely is the more interesting one, but with the fractured foot he has and him being questionable for week 1, I don't know. I'd rather just not have either one of them and have to spend that draft capital and just look for tight end elsewhere. One other thing I wanted to bring up real quick is DeAndre Hopkins did sign with the Ravens. I don't think he's a wide receiver 1, but I think he more cuts into wide receiver targets for Zay Flowers and the best ball hero himself, Rashad Bateman. So I would say the guys you want to target are definitely Lamar and Henry. Bateman may be an interesting candidate very late in drafts, but Zay Flowers to me is a little too rich at his current ADP, where I'm seeing him at, let's see, because he's never really been a wide receiver 1 in my opinion. Like, he's never had that feel to me. So let's see where I'm looking up his ADP right now. Is around 6. I don't feel comfortable really taking Zay Flowers at 6. To me, he's a little bit more boom or bust. So that's just my opinion. Shane, what's your thoughts on this juggernaut of an offense?
Obviously we talked about Lamar and Derrick Henry. I like Bateman as a lay around pick if you wanted to go with wide receiver. Zay Flowers, where he's going, I have a tough time drafting where I want to believe in him. He just hasn't shown it. If Likely's out for a period of time, I would take Andrews. But once again, it's where you have to take him. Probably not going to take him, but I would feel comfortable if I'm desperate for a tight end, he's going to get the ball while Likely's out for an extended period of time. But this is an offense that I think you can't go wrong with having pieces in. But the most consistent pieces to me are Jackson and Henry, which
unfortunately are the most expensive ones. So, how do you feel about the 12th overall ADP for Henry?
In PPR, that's too much for me. He doesn't standard. In standard. That's too low.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say it's too low.
So half PPR, it's just right.
Yes. Now look, I pulled this team up from last year. If you guys want to hear this real quick, because this is pretty disgusting. Okay, this dude was able to draft this team. You ready?
Yeah,
go for it.
All right. Y'all can hear me? Sorry, I was moving around. So he had Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
Bijan Robinson. Derrick Henry. Puka. DJ Moore. Brock Bowers. T. Higgins.
How?
Damn.
I know it's 10 teams. I know it's 10 teams.
On his bench, he had Baker Mayfield and Tucker Kraft.
How did y'all let him draft that?
So I'm getting hold on. Let me see if I can get this right. Bijan first round, Henry second round, Lamar third.
Hold on, I can tell you that. Let's.
I think that's what it would be.
I would guess Henry first round.
Oh, I don't.
Not over
from last year.
Not over Bijan, bro. Bijan was going top 5 last year. People were questioning. People
But
were
that's just
really
because
pushing
of Arthur
Henry.
Smith. That was because of Arthur Smith. Why I would have, but he was gone.
I want to
so.
say Derrick Henry might have fell, but let me. I'm pulling it up. Well, let's keep the
train rolling.
We'll go back to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got one more team to cover, guys.
Do we have anything? Do we have anything else on the Ravens before we go to?
To me, they're the best roster in the NFL. That's just my opinion.
I could
over the Eagles.
Over the Eagles, yeah, best roster in the NFL.
I'm
the
still
Eagles
questioning
the
Eagles losing Kellen Moore. Seeing how that offense is going to be is my biggest question.
Well, that they, naturally as a Super Bowl winner, you lose pieces, right? And the Eagles have lost some defensive pieces this year. I mean, I would put the Eagles too. I mean, if we're splitting hairs here, but I would have the Ravens as the best roster as of recording. So probably the Super Bowl favorite, if I had to guess. But let's go to a fun team, man. A team that we all know and love. Joey, why don't you lead us into?
At one point, we started looking at it as possibly LSU North, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals. Everyone is aware of their wide receiver core: Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow. They've got some good pieces. Last year, they kind of stumbled. A lot of their games were weird losses. So, what is the biggest question, I would say, with Cincinnati? What is the thing you would worry about most with Cincinnati, I guess, going into the season?
Fantasy-wise, I'm not worried about anything because, I mean, if you look at Burrow had 4,918 yards, 43 touchdowns. He actually had 201 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Brown, 990 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns, 54 receptions, 360 yards, 4 touchdowns. Chase, 127 receptions, 1,708 yards, 17 TDs. T. Higgins, 73 receptions, 911 yards, 10 TDs. So Chase, clear-cut number 1 in PPR. Higgins is going 25, Brown 27, Burrow 46. The Higgins thing for me is you're drafting him thinking that he is going to just drastically improve his numbers based on, I feel like you're drafting him in a ceiling again, which we've talked about a lot. I'm not a big – I like Brown this year. He's climbing up a little too high for me. He's more of a late third rounder for me. But I mean, if you are the first overall pick in a PPR redraft and you draft Chase, I have no problem with you taking Burrow in the 3rd round if those other quarterbacks have gone and you want to lock this guy in. I think he's a little underrated. To me, they've got him, I think, either the 5th or 6th quarterback behind Allen, Jackson, Hurts. And I couldn't remember if there's one in between. He's either 5th or 6th. But
Daniels.
Yeah, Daniels. So those are the 4. But to me, if you have Chase and want to lock it in, I don't know if he gets back to you at the 4-5 turn, but that is a cheat code. Those numbers from a quarterback to wide receiver are insane. I think the big question would be they just signed Noah Fant, so they kind of have a Fant Gesicki. That's a coin flip to me. I guess depending on how they fit into the offense. Do you think Yoshavash is going to be the 3rd receiver? So, do you want to try to, with Higgins being hurt, do you take a late round flyer on him? But this top 4 group has proven, at least the 2 receivers, I'm not going to, Brown is still a tinier back. He could get hurt just like the A-chain thing, but you don't draft off the injury what ifs, so love the Bengals top guys. Maybe depth might be an issue, or who steps up besides these 3 guys with Burrow. But their defense, I don't think miraculously fixed itself, even though Hendrickson has ended his holdout. Stewart is finally signed. So they're going to have to still score points. I guess maybe my question to you, Tyler, is do you feel that they don't match this production this year and that they're probably just all being drafted at their ceiling?
I mean, look, the Chase thing you can't deny. He is the 101 for sure. I think at a certain point, I think what Joe Burrow has to make another run for legacy purposes, right? Because to me, if they make the playoffs last year, he's the MVP. Like, it's close, but I think he's the MVP. I just think that I love T. Higgins. To me, is the one that's a little rich for my blood, but I get it. But he's always hurt, like you said. He always gets hurt. You don't want to spend a second round pick, especially a mid-second round pick, on a guy who's consistently not on the field. That would be my only one. I love the Ishavash late flyer. And look, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase would be a cheat code together. I don't mind. Like, I'm not usually a fan of stacks in redraft, but I don't mind that stack at all, just because the connection, the production. If one's putting up if Burrow's putting up numbers, more than likely it's Jamar Chase that is also putting up numbers, right? Like, we have other quarterbacks that can have huge days and just not target the number one, or number one gets taken away. That doesn't happen in this offense. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I think you called out Justin Jefferson's numbers. I couldn't remember his catches. Was it 103?
103, yeah.
1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns. So Chase has 7 more touchdowns, 208 more yards, and 24 more receptions. So even if he doesn't match the full production this year and say T. Higgins does come up, he still has to lose a lot, which I don't see it happening to not hit that number one spot. So, in multiple years, I think there's been 2 or 3 guys you could say, oh, maybe I'll go him. If I'm 101, I'm at Chase, unless you're the idiot in my league who's taking Barkley. But
it's bad. It's bad process, Shane. Bad process.
I'm not talking him out of it. Once again, if people want to do things that they think are right for their team, I don't have to agree with it. I just let them prove to be dumb.
So my only thing is, look, I'm not as big on the Chase Brown train as other people are. I've always just subscribed to the rule of, like, look, later round running backs can flash, but sustained success normally doesn't happen, right? It's just you play the numbers. I think he's going to be a very good back. There's no shot in hell I'm touching him at 27 ADP. Yeah. No shot.
And that's climbed. He was going in the mid-30s where I would feel comfortable with, but
to me, it's even the 4th. I would have to say a 4th round pick for me. I just feel like there's other guys that have done it for longer. And I get it.
Would you feel good keeping him in the 15th round of a?
Yes. Well, why don't you stop flexing over there? Yes. And the only reason you got him for that cheap is because I released him because I need the bench space. So go ahead.
This is why Tyler's having this take. He's still bitter about this.
No, not
sure.
Not
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Not at all.
I'm just kidding. But that's about. I think that's all we really need to say about the Bengals. I mean, they're going to offensively, they're going to score points and be fun for whoever has them on there.
Great offense versus with shit defense equals a lot of fantasy points.
Yep, exactly.
So, I mean, God, Joey, anything you want to add about the Bengals?
On your scoring thing, they only scored in the teens. I'm actually looking it up right now. 1, 2, 3 times last season. Their record doesn't show how good they are. They were 4-7 in one possession games. So you can flip that around however.
Exactly.
If you're looking at if you're one of those people who looks at a record and goes, okay, well, they're that good, but they are consistently scoring over 20 points a game. Like I said, up all but 3 times. And in those 3 games, they're 2-1. So you're looking at a good team that just is one lucky break away from making the playoffs.
I mean, I don't know. Beating the Patriots week 1 too would have helped.
Yeah. Well, not starting 0-3.
Yeah, no, that definitely helps too.
Yeah.
But is there anything else y'all want to add, gentlemen? I feel like we
did a pick. We did a pick for the NFC. We got to do for the AFC.
Oh, okay.
North. But before you make your pick, just to let you know, the odds, according to ESPN Bet, the Baltimore Ravens are -145 to win the division. The Bengals are second at +225. The Steelers are +550. And the Cleveland Browns are a +3,000 to win the division.
Oh, Cleveland, definitely.
Yeah. Hammer Cleveland.
Shane, I think we're both going to be in agreement. Baltimore.
I'm going to go Bengals.
You go Bengals. I just don't think the defense is gonna be there.
No, we're both in agreement. It's the
Yeah, okay.
Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's pretty
It's
pretty cut
Baltimore
and dry
by
there.
themselves.
Yeah. I mean,
But
and like I said,
but a clear second right now is the Bengals.
but let me tell you, if they could just be middle of the road on defense, then I could see them at least challenging. But if the defense is what it was last year, they had no shot that they win a division. But make the playoffs, I could definitely see. But all right, gentlemen, we had another fun episode of the recap another division. I think next week we're doing the South, huh?
No, West.
Oh, we're gonna go West and then
We're
South for
going
last.
this way, yes.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
It's a circle
totally for that. And so we'll knock out which teams we're gonna cover. We're gonna bring you the great fantasy insight that we always do. But for my co-host Joey and the other half of the Dynasty Doctors, Shane O'Mac, I'm your host Tyler, signing off again for the Noble Steady Sort of Sports Talk. Later.